Have you seen the remaining part of the derivation which I uploaded? explain. Don't worry. It is first time writing all the things, then I will explain. Last day up to how much we did? Although I proceeded almost the end, but I believe at the end you were not in a position to work, right? So let's start before from where I think where I invoked KYP lemma. Before that you were fine, right? So let me start from that side. Don't get confused with the variables. Probably last day I wrote this one as P, right? The same thing that is I'm writing with X, okay? And then all the line, that is, don't forget to write that is A is, her is, and then, okay? That is always required. And now in this step, along with A is, her is, this is going to be added because at this step we are invoking the KYP level, okay? please check whether you understand this step. Simply I have divided both the matrices by gamma, okay? And this one I have split into as if this is a kind of a column matrix and then row matrix. If you multiply the terms, the same thing you will get back. C transpose C, C transpose D, and D transpose C, D transpose D. And like when you are dividing by gamma, that means all the terms would be divided by gamma, right? So in between, that is just, it is an equivalent representation, but in between I have written that 1 by gamma into Im. Why this Im is required? Otherwise I cannot show it like a proper matrix multiplication. Okay.
Sir, Im will have 2 cross 2.
Yeah, like that is simply you try to find out all the products. Like this C transpose, it will be multiplied to C.
So if Im is in the middle, then we have to carry out that multiplication first, but that is not compatible. The column matrix is 2 cross 1. Im will be 2 cross 2.
No, it is C transpose.
Oh, the partition matrix.
It is C transpose. C is, what is the dimension of C? It is like if it is a P cross M, or here I assume that is M cross N. So C transpose means N cross M, and this one is M cross M. So now for both of them, the number of column is M, and here it is a M cross M. If you see this side, M cross N, M cross N. Okay. So here that is, I have assumed then, or if the dimension of C is P cross N, then it should have been P. Okay. So here you see that is what I assume. As if this is a square system, but in general it may not be a square system. So it should have been P cross N. If it is P cross N, then definitely this should have been IP. Okay. But this will be M only. This Im. What should be the dimension of here? Number of rows and columns. Because B always, that is the dimension of B will be N cross M, right? You must be careful about the dimension. So if I assume that is number of input channel is M, small m, and number of output channel is small p, that is the most generic condition. Number of state is small n, number of input is M, and number of output is p. So that is one is a small n, another one is a small m, and another one is a small p. If that is the situation, then what will be the dimension of all these identity matrices? That you have to find, right? So when you are deciding this one, anyway that is related to D transpose D, right? So here, that is if your I assume that is D, that is a M cross M, if it is a square system. But if it is not a M cross M, then it would be in general, it would be P cross M. Then if it is P cross M, then that is what would happen. Like this is going to be, that is M cross P into P cross M, M cross M. So like accordingly you will have to decide this one, right? And here this will be Im only. Why? Because you see this is B. So how many columns of B? M number of columns. Here you have B transpose. How many rows of B transpose? M. That's why this would be Im. But this one, now if it is a matter of C transpose C, and if you assume the dimension P cross N, then C transpose C, dimension N cross P into P cross N. In that way, that is, it must be then IP. I wrote all of them M because just for your convenience I considered square system. So P equals to M, that's why that is either you have IN, where IN? This one is IN. Here again, if somebody asks me that why this is IN, because this matrix minus A. What is the dimension of A? N cross N. That's why this I must have dimension N, right? So A, that is always N cross N. That's why this I must be of dimension N cross N, right? This is easy to find. But other I's, like, you have to be careful about, okay? Like D transpose D. If dimension of D is P cross M, then D transpose D means M cross P into P cross M. Again, it is M cross M. That's why this IM, that is fine. Even if dimension of D is P cross M, but still it would be IM only, right? So only like this one, I believe it will then become IP instead of IM, okay? Yeah, 1 by gamma into IM. This is actually you are dividing both sides by gamma. So you are as if you are multiplying this by 1 by gamma, this one also 1 by gamma. So each term is going to be multiplied by 1 by gamma. That I am writing in between. So that is here you can say that is I could have written simply like that. But since I am going to put that scalar factor in between where subsequently matrix multiplication is expected, that's why I have to write an I. Otherwise matrix multiplication cannot happen, right? That's why here I am writing an I. Okay? Now, after this, that is, I will assume that is as if this x by gamma, this is a new Lyapunov variable y, suppose y or p, whatever you consider. Let's say this is y, okay. So after that we are going to write A is Hermits, and there exists a y equals to y transpose such that this thing now it is going to be replaced by y, okay. So here what will happen? If and only if I write one more step for your convenience, YA plus A transpose Y, YA plus A transpose Y, then here you have YB, then you have B transpose Y, then this is gamma IM, fine. C transpose, D transpose, in between you have 1 by gamma I, here you have C, D, whole things negative definite, right? Can you now match with the Schur complement lemma as if this full thing is your P of x, okay, and this is suppose Q of x, this one suppose Rx inverse, and this one suppose Qx transpose. I am going to express this inequality in an inflated form. Now this is a 2 by 2 block matrix format. I am going to represent it in a 3 cross 3 block matrix format. Okay?
So minus.
That is here. What should I do? That is, I will bring a minus here. Accordingly, I will get a minus here as well. That I am going to do. Okay. May I remove the QIP lemma, only this part? You also try to write that is applying should complement lemma, what is going to be the expression? I already told you earlier, at this moment it is 2 cross 2, we are going to move into a 3 cross 3 format, okay? Here you might have a doubt how to get back to that form. Just you make a partition here. Okay, as if this whole thing is Px, this is Qx, this is Qx transpose, this is Rx. Whole less than 0. Is it now fine? For your convenience, you always try to frame that, or even on your copy you can write this whole portion is your Px, this 2 cross 2 format. This is Q, this is R, this is Q transpose. Then that is, it will be always easy to remember. So in that way, should complement lemma is really very handy for us. That is, it has a lot of applications, especially when we deal with LMIs. Now that is, after you reach this portion, up to this much, then can you apply Lyapunov lemma? And that is, if I write A is Hurwitz and there exists a y equals to y transpose positive definite. Please remember that is, even up to this step there was no definiteness of y. Right? What was the reason? Because like we get the linear matrix inequality or this fashion or like this form by applying the QIP lemma, and if you see the QIP lemma, there only symmetry was mentioned, that is, there exists a x equals to x transpose such that xa plus x transpose x, that whole thing, right? So no definiteness was considered, and accordingly it was proceeding from step by step. We were only writing that is A is Hurwitz and there exists a x equals to x transpose such that this one. So that's why up to this much, like up to this step, there was no definiteness on x, only x equals to x transpose. Now this whole matrix, this is a 3 cross 3 block matrix, that is negative definite. You know that this one is the pivotal element, so this has to be of the same definiteness. So Ya plus A transpose Y, that must be negative definite. A is already Hurwitz. Now you apply the Lyapunov lemma 1. What is written over there? Let x equals to x transpose be a solution to the Lyapunov inequality xa plus A transpose x negative definite. Then x is negative definite. Sorry, x is positive definite if and only if A is Hurwitz. This is the if and only if statement. Then you see whether the condition which we already have, do they correspond to the situation of Lyapunov lemma? Here, that is considered this term. So here, what did you get? YA plus A transpose Y that is less than 0. It is already known that A is Hurwitz. Don't they imply that is Y positive definite by the upon of lemma 1? All of you please check and ask me if you have a doubt. So XA plus A transpose X less than 0, that is what we have got since the whole 3 cross 3 block matrix is negative definite. After that, this A is Hurwitz, like the right hand side is already available to us, and this is if and only if to the positive definiteness condition of X. That's why can't we say that is this Y which that is we are proceeding with only being symmetric, that is not only symmetric, it is symmetric positive definite, right? As long as the strict inequality is there. Like instead of less than 0, that is instead of negative definite, had it been negative semi-definite, then we couldn't have concluded this. But since it is a strict inequality, that's why we can conclude it. Okay. So now finally, A is Hurwitz, and there exists a symmetric positive definite matrix Y such that this whole thing you write one more time, YA plus A transpose Y, then YB, C transpose, then B transpose Y minus gamma YM, D transpose, the last row is C, D and minus gamma IM for the second time, whole thing less than 0. Lastly, what should you write? As an LMI problem, minimize gamma greater than 0, subjected to if and only minimize gamma greater than 0, subjected to this whole LMI, the bigger one, less than 0, and Y equals to Y transpose greater than 0. If someone asks you that is okay, this finding this H infinity, if there can be 2-3 different type of questions that can be asked in the exam, or even like anyone can ask you. If someone asks you true bounded real lemma, okay, then the way I started exactly you will have to follow the sequence. Now, if someone asks you that is okay, this how can you formulate this H infinity norm problem in an LMI framework? Then you have to start writing in this way. After writing this line, then you will go back to the definition of H infinity norm. So, like this step, that what I wrote here, that is the LMI formulation of the H infinity norm problem. Once again, this is the LMI formulation of the H infinity norm problem. Okay? And the last step, that is the solution, because here you don't have any LMI mentioned over here, but here you have LMIs mentioned. So this is ultimately the solution. Where you already had 1 by gamma, then R inverse, so that's why you have a gamma. And all of you please note here that is originally here you don't have any minus. But if you see Schur complement lemma, P minus Q R inverse Q transpose, right? So in that form, I assume that as if instead of this plus, I have a minus. To compensate that minus, here also I considered another minus. In that way, you can understand well. Is it fine? All of you now check the whole sequence. This is one of the fundamental result of robust control, because depending upon this BR lemma only, later we will proceed to design a infinity controller. So this is just a case study, okay, theoretical case study. That is, you might think that is what is the point of learning this BR lemma. Then you think about this situation, okay. Suppose this is this G delta, this is an uncertain plant, okay, and this is the easiest type of uncertainty. This is called additive uncertainty, okay. The uncertainty, there are a different type of uncertainty. That is, what are the most 3, 4, famous type or the commonly appearing uncertainties? What are they? At this moment, like first, like what Sudhashram said, that is firstly, that is what are the broad classification of uncertainties? Structured, unstructured, and sometimes that is we say that is parametric uncertainty, but parametric is also kind of a structure, but still that is we mention about parametric uncertainties differently, or in those are the like mostly different type of uncertainties. So that is if I write why at this moment time that is going to uncertainty, there is a reason, because gradually we are moving towards a controller design, and then that is what is the main objective of any robust controller design, that is you have to maintain the robust stability. Robust stability means like stability in the presence of the uncertainty, right? Earlier, that is when you designed the controller, everywhere there is stability was guaranteed, but the plant was completely certain. We didn't consider any of the uncertain elements, right? But in this subject, for the first time, we are dealing with plants with different type of uncertainties, and that is actually the realistic condition, because whatever we learned earlier, that is for ideal plant, in practice, whenever you do some experimentation with a real plant or in a practical environment, you cannot think or you cannot expect that is there will be no noises, no disturbances, no parameter variation. That is impossible. So that's why that is like we all of us like we must learn robust control, and at least in the controller design we should consider the different type of uncertainties. Okay. Now that is coming to the uncertainty. I think at the beginning that is we discussed little bit, but now like well that gradually that is we will discuss more. So first of all is unstructured. That too we discussed, that is unstructured uncertainties means that is where you don't have precise knowledge about the uncertainty, right? Only thing some form of norm, like these are all norm bounded uncertainties, only you can specify the norm, right? If you have knowledge about the structure of the uncertainty, then it is called structure. Okay. Now, under which a specific form is parametric. In some books you will find they write in a 3 different categories, but I believe that is parametric one that comes under the structure, because there you have a specific structure. Say for example, if I write that is k by a square plus p1 is plus p0. Suppose this one, very known form, we already saw it before. And now p1 varies in between p1 min to p1 max, and p0 varies in between p0 min to p0 max. It has a specific structure. Not only that, it is a bounded variation, and that range is also specified. So that's why it is structured, right? So that's why that is if you write under structure, then it is fine. I believe that is quite wise to write under this. And then after that you have lumped or composite, where you have a mixture of unstructured and structured. Okay. Now there is one more class which is like not that much written in the books. Only in some books they are written. Can anybody tell me what could be another type of uncertainty? Already we have lumped. Another type could be state-based uncertainties. Now, here we have a glitch. Some of these state-based uncertainties can go to unstructured or even into structured domain as well. That is, here we need some attention. That is, you, of course, that is all the beginners will have some doubt here. I'm going to show you, that is, which will go to which format. After that, I will come back to this example. Okay. So first of all, unstructured uncertainty, that we express genuinely in this form. And please remember, in most of the unstructured cases, we represent in the frequency domain. But you should not think that is unstructured is always represented in frequency domain. That can be represented in state space as well. I'm going to write both for you, don't worry. Actually, with the uncertainty representation in various papers or in books, they write in their own way. And so that's why it can easily cause confusions to our mind, and especially that is if you are a beginner. Boundary tree lemma is now fine for all of you. All the steps, have you seen the whole derivation? Can anybody tell me what do you mean by quadratic stability?
Something related to the energy like function that will eventually decay at zero without x.
So decay is quadratic. Decay is quadratic.
Energy function is quadratic. So this PA plus A transpose P less than 0, that is nothing but quadratic stability as well. Why? Because it comes from the Lyapunov function Vx equals to x transpose Px, right? That is, if you have the plant x dot equals to Ax, and then if you consider a V function which is x transpose Px, then that will give you PA plus A transpose P less than 0, right? So here, if it is a stability problem, then what do we search for? We will always search for a symmetric positive definite matrix, so that PA plus A transpose P is negative definite, right? So that's why this type of stability is called quadratic stability. Now, that is here, why that is all of a sudden in the robust stability class I am just mentioning quadratic stability, right? It must have a purpose. I am not deviating, everything is related, so that's why I am gradually going. That is, you don't think there is service like jumping onto there is one topic from another, or anything to ask.
So first we learned about that boundary real lemma. You mentioned about uncertainty.
Then that is, I am just going into uncertainty. Okay, that is, if you face a problem that is in like sinking, then let me come to that first. Okay, that is first, that is like, I'm just changing the sequence because otherwise the way that is I started, maybe that is it may be little bit confusing. Here, what is my intention? Nominal plant is G0, your whole plant is G0 of S plus delta of S. Suppose your G0 is simply a second order plant, okay? That is 1 by A square plus S plus 1, simply a second order plant. But now, about this uncertain part, it is a first of all additive uncertainty. So, which is like quite, by just looking at the diagram, it is like we can easily understand that it is this unstructured. First of all, this is an unstructured uncertainty, and it is appearing in the additive format. Okay, as a whole, it is G0 S plus delta of S. We don't know exactly the structure of delta S, but here only that is the information which is given to us. That is the H infinity norm of delta of S that is less than gamma, and gamma is a positive number. This gamma has to be known. Say for example, this gamma is 5. Okay. Now, if this is the situation, if this is the plan, and if somebody asks you to design a controller, what would you do? Here there is a reference, okay, so it can be a tracking problem. So for the time being, that is, you can put this is 0. So like first you can resolve this as a regulatory problem, then we can come back for the tracking. Okay, whenever it is a tracking problem, first you can solve it as a regulatory problem, then you can come back for tracking. Okay, and of course there is a disturbance. Now how do you handle the disturbance? The disturbance attenuation, that part will also come later. Like first of all, given any robust control problem, first of all you have to think about the robustability. Then you will go for the performances one by one. Once again, given any robust control problem, your first job is to design the controller so that robust stability is maintained. That means if your D0 is 0, if your R equals to 0, then what is the guarantee that for any delta S, within satisfying this non-bound, the closed loop system will remain asymptotically stable. That is our robust stability, right? Once again, that is, suppose in this moment you have made R 0, you have made D0 0, so no exogenous signal, right? Now what is the guarantee that this closed loop system will always remain stable for any uncertainty delta S satisfying this non-constraint? That is your robust control problem, okay? Please think about it. If you have any doubt, I will repeat.
So in the bounded real lemma, we use the transfer function of the plant.
Especially state-based matrices.
So here
Because
we are using that of the uncertainty.
no, as you know, for the uncertainty, that is, we cannot do anything. We don't know its specific structure, right? So, bounded real lemma, if we have to apply, we would use the state-based matrices of G0 only, not of delta. Delta has to be secluded.
So then how come you wrote delta S H infinity is less than gamma? If you don't know about delta, then how can you comment about it H infinity is less than or greater than? Because
Right, it's a good question. Okay. Can you find out the transfer function from Z to W? Please tell me. My intention is to draw this entire structure in this fashion. This will be your Z, this will be your W. This is called M delta structure. This is very famous in robust control literature. This is called M delta structure. From this diagram, you can easily understand this Z is the signal which goes to the delta, and W is the signal which comes out from delta and it comes back to the output, right? Now, that is, suppose if it is not there, that is, I want to separate it out. That is, as I said, we don't have any specific knowledge about the structure of delta, so that's why we have to keep aside delta. And we have to focus on the whole other part whose components we know. So tell me, that is here, what would be the remaining part? Shouldn't it be like CS into I plus G0S into CS whole inverse?
we're not considering the delta S.
Exactly. So that's why that is, it is a signal and this is a signal. This ms, this is nothing but t zw of s. This is the transfer function which we are trying to find. Isn't it? Y0 means your G0 into U, right? Then U means CS into E. Although I should write all of these small variables in the cap format because it is in the Laplace domain, just to like save some time, that is I am writing small, but all of you should remember that is G0 S, CS, they are Laplace domain variables. So all these vectors, they should also be in the Laplace format, okay? So capital Y prime of S and then capital Y of M of S, so on. Your E means R minus Ym, R is now 0, so this is minus Ym, right? Is it fine? Then after that, now that is I need to make a relation with Z. What is your Z? Z is nothing but U, and U is nothing but CS into E, that is equals to CS into Ym, since R equals to 0. Right? Now, if I wish to make a relation between Z and W, then how would you write? Z equals to minus CS into, directly we can replace this Ym, I plus G0S into CS whole inverse into W, right? Z of S equals to M of S into W of S. Same thing we also write T Z W. That means the transfer function from W to Z. Okay. Now this entire thing is your MS. This entire thing is your MS. you can design CS such that this is the H infinity design problem, H infinity controller design problem. Try to understand. If I draw the diagram just in a little bit different way, maybe it would be easier for you to understand. Is it a better representation? Earlier I just drew that one just underneath the plan, and now this is the usual representation. Actually, last time when I drew, that is by mistake I started drawing from a little bit upside. So I didn't have space there to draw the delta block above the plant. So delta is the uncertain part. Always remember that in the robust control part, you have to keep aside the uncertainty because we don't have enough knowledge about the structure of the uncertainty. Okay? So that's why you have to keep delta outside. Now remaining part, G0, that is known because that is in our hand, and for G0, that is we will always use the state space matrices ABCD, and also that is we will assume that it is the minimal. Okay, that is the AB controller fully controllable, AC fully observable. Now the C of S, this is your design parameter, or this is your design problem, that is you will have to design the C of S. Now whenever that is we are given a controller design problem, that is first you should search for what are the objectives to be met, right? Because without objectives, if no objectives is given, we don't know how to design the controller or for what we are going to design the controller. Now in any robust stability problem, in any robust controller design problem, robust controller design objectives, okay? Then what are they? First, RS, robust stability, okay? Because like basically you might have learned about NS. NS means nominal stability, but since it is already the uncertainty is given, so that is maintaining only NS is like that is it would serve our purpose, right? So NS, nominal stability, it is completely for those kind of plants where delta is 0. Okay, now that is we are already in a zone where delta is non-zero, uncertainty is there, so we have to design a robust controller. First objective is that you have to maintain the robust stability. Now what is the meaning of robust stability? That means this entire closed loop system has to remain stable in the presence of delta. Okay, now you can say that is sir, delta can be of infinite choice. Yes, that is true, delta can be of infinite choice because we don't have a precise knowledge about delta. So it is impossible for a controller to accommodate all type of delta. That is absurd. So that's why that is we specify at least some bound. That is whatever may be the structure, that is for you have to first define the reach of the delta. Say for example, earlier I mentioned that is maybe the H infinity norm of delta is less than 5 or less than 6 or less than 10. Accordingly, you will have to design the controller. But if someone says that is okay, if the delta can be anything, like its norm, that is its strength can be as high as 100, 200 or 500, then we cannot design a controller. It is impossible. So that's why that is when you proceed to design a robust controller, first of all you have to gain or you have to gather some knowledge about the uncertainty. Maybe it is not possible to find out the precise information, but at least about its strength. In most of the situation you will see that is we deal with non-bounded uncertainties. Even in books also you will find this term, non-bounded uncertainties. That is somewhat here, that is this the delta, that is at least a stable type of uncertainty and its strength is defined or it is bound by H infinity norm. Okay, that is as I did, this maybe it is norm of this H infinity norm of delta less than 5. If this information is not given, then it is very difficult to design a robust controller. Okay. Then that is coming back to the robust controller design objectives. First of all, robust stability, that I already explained, that is stability of the entire closed loop system in the presence of delta, satisfying this norm constraint. Okay, that is the meaning of robust stability. Then second one is NP. NP means nominal performance. Okay, that means this tracking, disturbance, attenuation. These are all nominal performance. Then you will ask, sir, what do you mean by nominal performance? We understood. If it is tracking, of course, that is one type of performance. If it is disturbance attenuation, another type of performance. But nominal means when you start, that is when we start, then you have to see, okay, after designing the robust controller, if the uncertainty is not there, then whether the tracking and disturbance attenuation is happening or not. That is called nominal performance. But immediately the question will come, now delta is there, so it is expected that during a practical implementation, those effect of delta will be there. So finally, you will have to look for RP, a robust performance. In that way, these are the main three objectives for robust controller design. First, robust stability, then nominal performance, then robust performance. And now this achieving robust performance is the most difficult thing, for which in robust control there is one area called mu analysis and mu synthesis. That is the required technique which we generally do for RP, but which is quite complicated. At this moment you can write a note, that is for that we write is mu, this symbol, mu analysis and mu synthesis. If you have that set, what is this mu? Mu is the structured singular value. You already heard about singular value. Now that is related to this, there is one other type of singular value, that is called structured singular value. That is defined in frequency domain. Mu analysis and mu synthesis. Okay. Often this mu, that is in short we write SSV. SSV means structured singular value. Now, have you understood what is the robust control problem? Right? Then if somebody asks you, that is okay, what is the H infinity controller design problem? That means when you are expecting the controller to be an H infinity controller. then it is called an edge infinity controller design problem. Now can you read out this and tell me whether you are fine with this or not? What did I write? For the same plant or for the same system, what I wrote, like design C of S such that M of S belong to range infinity. The moment you write M of S range infinity, that means it will satisfy the nominal stability Ns. This is an important point. The first one, when you will mention that is Ms belongs to range infinity, that means the closed loop system without delta is asymptotically stable, right? So that is nothing but your nominal stability. But only nominal stability doesn't work because now you have delta. So how would you guarantee robust stability? For that we need small gain theorem. Already I have drawn M delta, and now last day I wrote small gain theorem. Now you will see that I am going to write that is how small gain theorem helps us in controller, edge infinity controller design.
You have also mentioned that M of
Just a second. Alright.
you already mentioned that M of S H infinity is less than 1 by gamma.
Huh.
Is not that sufficient to tell that it is robust to stable?
Good question. So I say, so here you can see I mentioned two objectives. Design C of S, that means design the controller such that means ये कंट्रोलर को ऐसा होना पड़ेगा जो ये भी करेगा साथ में ये भी करेगा, right? This is understood to everyone? First one will guarantee NS. Second one will guarantee RS. Now how, that I am going to explain. All of you, first try to understand up to this much. This first thing, MS belongs to range infinity. Within MS, you don't have any presence of delta. So this is called nominal closed loop system. If I say the nominal closed loop system belongs to range infinity, that means nominal closed loop system is asymptotically stable. But if our controller can do up to that much, then it is not good for us, or that is not at all the end for us. Why? Because delta is there. We have to carry forward this asymptotic stability even in the presence of delta. So that's why this time we need something beyond NS. That means we need something beyond nominal stability, which is robust stability. The second part will ensure robust stability. Now the question is how? For that we need small gain theorem. What is small gain theorem? सोच के पूरा स्टेटमेंट बताओ. in an easy term, we can say, we already understood internal stability. We can say that is this feedback interconnection is internally stable if the feedback interconnection is internally stable if H infinity norm of the loop transfer function is less than 1. This is called small-gain theorem, one of the most powerful robust stability analysis tool over time. Now, suppose the class of uncertainty you are dealing with, that H infinity norm is less than 5. Somehow, that is, you have got this information. Now, if you can design your CS so that MS belongs to RH infinity and the H infinity norm of MS that is less than 0.2, then your robust stability is also guaranteed.
So, is it possible as delta as one thing with H infinity?
Like now, that is when you write this condition, it is here it was together. Now what happens? That is this that is the relation. The separately, that is, if you have the product of the H infinity norms less than 1, that implies this one. Okay, we always use this result. That is individually, that is suppose, so what did I say? Suppose one of them is delta. So suppose like G1 and G2. So suppose your G2 is delta. So that is less than 5. And through the controller design, you are ensuring that is this H infinity norm of G1s that is also less than 0.2. So together it will be less than, strictly less than 1. So that means it will satisfy this Morgan condition, right? So that's why that is whenever given this type of diagram, we always try to convert it into M delta. Whatever may be the structure of the delta, that is whether this is additive, multiplicative, inverse multiplicative or co-prime, whatever may be the delta, especially in the case of unstructured, we always try to convert or they represent the diagram into M delta fashion. Okay, why M delta fashion? Because we know that is for delta, that is this H infinity norm could be given, that is, so if this is gamma, then we have to ensure through the controller design that H infinity norm of MS must be less than 1 by gamma. Then only together it will satisfy the Small-Gain theorem, and then robust stability will also be guaranteed. This is the entire thing which I wanted to make. I will repeat. You first think about the whole thing yourself. Then I will repeat once more. First, that is all of you. What is the sequence in which that is I explain. First, you see the diagram. always, that is in every robust control problem, you have to first draw the block diagram. How would you draw the block diagram? It is not difficult to place the controller, but it is difficult to place the uncertainty. That is, at this moment, why I put it into this fashion? Because I assume that it is a additive uncertainty. But it may be a multiplicative uncertainty, it may be an inverse uncertainty. Then you have, accordingly, you will have to draw the block diagram. Depending upon the block diagram, then you have to draw it, or you have to represent it into this M delta fashion, okay? And then there is M is known to you. M is known to you in the sense, now within M, of course, you have an unknown thing, which is the controller C of S, but at least delta is not there. MS is completely separate from delta. Now delta, although we don't have precise information, but we know its strength. If it is, especially if it is a norm-bounded uncertainty, you know its H infinity norm, right? Now what is, if you would like to apply the H infinity controller, then your H infinity controller design problem is just this much. Design a CS such that MS belongs to RH infinity, that means the nominal closed loop system is it belongs to RH infinity, which will guarantee nominal stability. But as I said, up to this much is not at all sufficient for us, so you need something more so that robust stability is guaranteed. So for that you need to have this. So what does it say? Not only MS belongs to RH infinity, its gain or its H infinity norm must be less than some certain thing. So that is the extra requirement that the controller must fulfill. Are you getting? So MS belonging to RH infinity, that is anyway, that is nominal. Everywhere for any controller design, this will happen. But now you have to maintain some, you have to gain some extra thing. What is that extra thing? Not only it is asymptotically stable, its H infinity norm must be less than the reciprocal of the H infinity norm of delta, right? If that is gamma, it has to be strictly less than 1 by gamma. That extra thing the controller must achieve. Then it will be robustly stable as well. That is guaranteed by Small-Gain theorem, right? If you now try to match this diagram with this, here it is MS and delta S. Here I wrote as if G1 and G2. So you can read as if G1 is delta or G2 is M, or even the otherwise. But what was the criteria? Both of them has to be RH infinity, otherwise you cannot apply Small-Gain theorem, right? So that is the reason why right from the beginning I said this is this class of uncertainty with which we are now working. They must be asymptotically stable. Its strength can vary a lot, okay, but it should not have any unstable effect or even marginally stable effect, because in that case certainly we cannot apply this Small-Gain theorem. So this is slightly a limitation of Small-Gain theorem, because it cannot take any marginally stable system directly, okay. Now suppose immediately you can ask, that is okay, so here what we understood, that it's a limitation, that is delta will also, like delta should also belong to RH infinity, right? That is here for the class of uncertainty that we are dealing with. So delta must also be RH infinity. If it happens, that is in many cases it can be the situation where delta is not asymptotically stable. Suppose it is a kind of uncertainty which has a J omega axis pole pair or a pole on the origin, then what will happen? Then we cannot apply Small-Gain theorem, right? And for that class of uncertainties, we cannot directly apply H infinity controllers. Because for H infinity controllers, since you see, H infinity controller, it works keeping hand in hand with Small-Gain theorem. Are you getting my point? H infinity controller's design that heavily relies on the small gain theorem, because after the design, finally it must satisfy this condition, that is the H infinity norm of m into H infinity norm of delta, that must be less than 1. That is what I can write. So H infinity norm of m into H infinity norm of delta s, this product must be less than 1. Okay, that condition needs to be maintained, and that is why small gain theorem. So H infinity controller design, it heavily relies on small gain theorem for its robust stability. Okay, now if it happens, that is, first of all, this H infinity controller design, it has slight limitation. Like, what is the limitation? See, this non-bounded condition, it has to be like the product of this H infinity norm less than 1. This condition and the product of the norms less than 1, it has to be maintained for all frequencies starting from omega equals to 0 up to omega equals to infinity. Don't you think that it's a restrictive condition? Because sometimes the controller needs higher gain as well. Why controller needs higher gain? Suppose for tracking problem, when it has to bring the error signal down, then controller gain को तो ज़्यादा होना ही पड़ेगा. तो इसीलिए performance के लिए this is not at all good that the controller will have very less gain throughout all the frequency range. That is not also good. Are you getting my point? That is, in the high frequency, if controller gain is less, that is good. But in the low frequency range, if controller gain is too less, then it is not good, because the tracking means low frequency phenomena. And for tracking, you need at least certain gain of the controller. But there, if you have to sacrifice or if you have to compromise, then your tracking performance will degrade. So that's why, from the stability point of view, we will always try to reduce the gain. But if you see performance, it needs gain. So again, there must be a trade-off. So what is the takeaway point? That is minimizing the controller gain for all frequency. That is not good. You minimize the controller gain at high frequency, that is fine. In the mid frequency range, you keep it slightly low. But if you say always it would be low, starting from 0 to infinity, that is not good. Obviously, that is good for as far as the stability is concerned, because as you know, that is, if you increase your gain, that means physically you are pumping more energy into your system, and more energy, what will it will do? If the system gets more energy, then it will, like, its stability will also, relative stability will degrade, right? So from that perspective, if you reduce your gain, like especially that is if your controller is designed so that there is controller design, the controller gain is like reducing as a whole, the gain of MS, that is also just getting reduced, then that is really good for the stability aspect. But for a control system, not stability is not the only objective. You have to meet performance as well. And performance, one of the main performance is the tracking. And for tracking means if your Y needs to track R, like if you like require a faithful tracking, and that too, that is like keeping the settling time within 2 or 3 seconds, then you need certain amount of proportional gain. So then that is if through one side you are reducing the controller gain too much, then it will hamper your performance. So that's why always, and it is a trade-off, that how much the gain you will reduce. Then immediately the question will come, that is, sir, if this is our framework, that means suppose if we go by the H infinity controller approach, then we will like proceed accordingly with the LMI, that everything will be equipped. But here, how can we include the things for the performance? Because once the controller is produced by solving the LMIs, that will do its best through these objectives, but then performance is not included, right? So how can you do it like in a wise way? then you have to, when you run these LMIs, then you must have some conditions which will take care of the performance. They must be run together. That is called H infinity controller design with multi-objective performance. H infinity controller design with multi-objective performance. That means there you will find many LMIs. Some of them will be there for achieving the robust stability, and some of the conditions will definitely be there which will take care of the performance. One performance is the steady state tracking, another one this disturbance minimization, maybe another one noise attenuation. So this kind of objectives will also be there. Now if your controller is synthesized in presence of all together, then only it can do fair, or it can be an optimal controller or an optimized controller. If you design a separate, if you design an H infinity controller like this without keeping the performance constraint, then what will happen? Later it won't satisfy the constraint. So if you have to think about, if you have to maintain the performance, then you have to include those conditions during the controller design itself, not later. So that is called a controller design with multi-objective performance. Okay. So I hope now you have understood about robust controller design, its objectives, small gain theorem, and also that is what is the problem statement of a H infinity controller design, right? Any doubt up to this much? We will take a small break and then we will come back. क्या हुआ? इसीलिए तो break दे रहा हूँ ना, so that you can gain some energy. So far, any doubt? Anybody? Okay, let's take a If you see these diagrams, this is similar to case 1. Case 2 is output multiplicative unstructured uncertainty. Case 3 is input multiplicative unstructured uncertainty. Case 4 is inverse additive. Okay, you can easily see that why it is called inverse, right? Earlier all of them was in a feed forward, that is this thing plus this thing, but now that is the signal is coming back, like it is a feed forward, so that's why it is an inverse type uncertainty. So one is additive inverse or inverse additive, another one is inverse multiplicative. Now if multiplicative can be of two fashion, output multiplicative and input multiplicative, then inverse multiplicative can also be of two. So similarly, this one is the inverse output multiplicative because the uncertainty is that at the output side. Similarly, if this would have been shifted here, it would have been inverse input multiplicative uncertainty. Okay, so your job is to, like it's a homework, for these 4 cases you have to find out the transfer function from W to Z. Okay, so for all of them you have to find out the MS, which is nothing but TZW of S, that is the transfer function from W to Z. And you have understood the reason why this I am asking you to do so, because whatever may be the uncertainty structure, ultimately if you wish to follow the edge infinity controller design approach, then you must have this MS, because on MS only you are going to apply the edge infinity controller design elements, right? So whatever may be the structure, first of all you will have to keep aside the exogenous signals, then you have to keep aside the delta, and you have to find out the representation MS, keeping in mind that we ultimately need that M delta structure. So whatever may be the first diagram, your objective is to always convert into M delta structure. With that in mind, I have given you these exercises so that like all the MS expressions you know quite well. Okay. So this last week, that is I'm going to end very soon. Only about the I started discussing the uncertainty. I'm showing you like different situation. 2 दिन पहले मैं YouTube में एक ये देखा, किसी ने शायद एक रील अपलोड किया होगा, वो कह रहा है जब अचानक कितना बारिश हो रहा है ना असम वेस्ट बंगाल में, तो लिखा रहा है कि महादेव रुष्ट হয়ে গেছে। महादेव रुष्ट হয়ে গেছে। What do you mean by that? That means Lord Shiva has got really irritated with us.
ইন্দ্র বলে তাও ঠিক ছিল।
হ্যাঁ?
ইন্দ্র বলে তাও ঠিক ছিল।
So actually, he is the main power. No, that is, if he is irritated, and then if he requests Indra to do all these things, immediately the other people have to do that. Now you don't have to write anything, just you try to understand that what are the situation. Okay. Because regarding uncertainty, there is even last year also just many people have some doubts, so that's why that this time I am teaching in a different way. At the very beginning, that is what I would say. That is, usually if you see any book, then when we learn about unstructured, most of the time we represent them in this fashion, delta of S. And from that, that is, we get a wrong conception as if unstructured uncertainty is represented only in frequency domain. That is one of the things. Are you waiting? That is, if you see any book on robust control, when they start uncertainty, most of the time you will see that is this unstructured, they represent by writing delta of S and putting a non-bound on delta. From that, that is, we like unknowingly we develop a conception that as if this unstructured can represented only in the frequency domain, which is not. It can be represented in the state-space domain, I mean in the time domain as well. How? Then if it is unstructured in the frequency domain, then one possible approach is as I know, that is, suppose G delta equals to G0 nominal plus delta of S. This can be one representation. Or if it is multiplicative, then G delta of S equals to G0 of S into I plus delta of S. Okay, can anybody tell me whether this is input multiplicative or output multiplicative? Tell me whether this is output or input. That is, one is this representation, there is another representation, like if I wrote it, this is again another. So one is this is additive, we don't have any doubt it, but for the multiplicative, one could be this one, another could be this one. Now, which one is input and which one is output? First of all must be input, right? Again, whenever you have like doubt, always you like think in that fashion, one block is G1 and one block is G2. Suppose like you have consecutively G1, G2, input to G1 is your U, final output is Y, in between you have a signal W, and then you try to resolve. That is, if it is a product of two blocks, as in this is G1 and G2, then whether this is input or output, right? So this is in the frequency domain. Now in the state space domain, there also, that is, if please note it, that is in the state space, when we write x dot equals to ax, then if it is an uncertain model, then here we can write a plus delta a into x. A plus delta a. That is uncertainty. This is again unstructured. Okay. So then this can be further expressed in the way that is V some non-bounded delta into W. In this way, now you can answer this, sir, why this delta A is now represented as a product of three different elements, that is some matrix into delta into something. But so that now this delta is in this representation, the norm of delta is less than 1. In that way it is represented with the motive that is this delta will ultimately be pulled out, because anyway you have to find out MS. Within MS there should not be any delta. So in this delta A, that is modeled as V into delta into W. Okay, well V and W would be known. Only there is exact norm of delta is not known, but it is calibrated to, or regular, what should I say, normalized to less than 1. So that the uncertainty delta A, that is being represented V into delta into W, where non-delta is less than 1. Okay. So this is regarding one of the situation, because last year, that is, I have seen the event, that is where I also initially had this kind of doubt, that is that, or unknowingly, that is we developed those, because in you also, that is, you see the robust control groups in most of the places, you will find that is the unstructured ones are represented by delta of S and putting an 18 infinity norm. From that, we unknowingly, that is, we grow a concept that is okay. Unstructured means it will always be in the frequency domain, which is not. In the time domain also, that is, it can be represented. Now, here you can ask, that is, like suppose when you will read all the things, you might have a doubt, that is, sir, if unstructured uncertainty can appear in state-based domain as well, then why that is in most of the books or even in most of the controller design we consider frequency domain uncertainty? That is also a valid question. That is, if unstructured uncertainty can appear in the state-based domain, then why do we always try to get a frequency domain unstructured condition? Because that is always easier to handle. Because if delta appears in the frequency domain, then it is really very easy for us to split it into the M delta fashion and then go towards edge infinity controller design. That is the reason why if it is unstructured, people always try to model it in the frequency domain approach. Are you getting my point? Although it can appear both in frequency domain and time domain, but if it appears in the frequency domain, then it is always much easier for us to express in the M delta format and then proceeding with the edge infinity controller design procedure. Okay. If it is in the time domain, then it is for after which, that is after this, you have to do some much more to get it into the M delta or even in some other convenient format from which we can do the controller design. Okay, that is the difference. That is the main reason why that is we are obsessed with the frequency domain representation. Is it clear? Now, not only about A, here in the B matrix also can have uncertainty. So for B also, you can have B plus delta B into U, and similarly this B can also be represented in such a way. Now, if you ask, that is, sir, okay, that is, we agree that if it is in the time domain, then you will have this delta A, delta B, and which can be further like expressed as in the V delta W, where this norm delta is less than 1. After that, what do you expect? Then, suppose you have A, B, C as well. From each of that, you are going to have, suppose, one delta here. Suppose this is delta A. Here you will be getting one more delta B, maybe delta C, and then finally the capital delta, that means the composite uncertainty, that will be in the form delta A, delta B, delta C. That will be your composite delta. So this delta will then finally, ultimately, that is, if you have to go by the bus controller, especially infinity controller design, then eventually you will have to get the M delta framework, because the LMIs are derived based on that configuration only. So that's why whatever may be your original uncertainty description, if you have to apply the LMI based edge infinity controller synthesis procedure, then we always try to get into discussion. Okay, that is our main purpose. Is it now clear that is unstructured can appear both in frequency domain and in time domain, but still why the frequency domain is more popular? Okay, then this, if I come to parametric, structured I am coming. For the parametric, suppose if I say that is G delta of S, this small delta means it is an example of parametric uncertainty. If it happens that is A by S square plus P1S plus P0, where K belongs to K mean, K max, similarly P1 that also belong to P1 mean to P1 max, then P0 that belongs to P0 mean to P0 max. That is the case of parametric uncertainty. Okay, this is also called structured. Why? Because there it cannot happen that is all of a sudden the scalar parameter will become P1 square. That is impossible, right? So this will be a scalar parameter. It will remain as a scalar parameter. Time independent, time invariant, it will remain time invariant, and on top of that, this range is also known. So this kind of uncertainty, it is called parametric uncertainty. Okay, I have shown it for just a scalar transfer function. Same thing can happen to a transfer function matrix as well. Okay. Now coming to structure. I am like explaining the structure with the help of an example. Okay. Suppose for a spin-mass damper system, you have the transfer function 1 by ms square plus ds plus k. Now m, b and k, all of them are scalar parameters and they can vary within a known range. Okay. So for m, that variation, if you can express that variation like this, m is going to be m0 plus we can represent that, right? Similarly, B, that can also be represented B0 into 1 plus, suppose delta 2 into delta B. And this K, that can also be represented K0 into 1 plus delta 3 into delta K. That is just like standard representation. This M0, B0 or K0, they are the nominal value, and this delta, that is the, that is the change, relative change. Now, they can, if they are represented in that way, then somewhat, see, the difficulty in handling such structure is that here already this parameter, they can vary, but if you have to apply this M delta procedure where M is completely free from any uncertainty, and then the all uncertainty would be grouped in delta, then from here, in that sense it is difficult to handle here, because in that way this parametric, this is structured as well, we know about the pattern of the variation, its range, everything. But if somebody asks you, that is, you pull out this uncertainty from that and you get a nominal blunt, then it is really difficult. So here we do some transformation or algebraic manipulation so that all these delta, they can be represented similar to this small like delta M, then delta B, then delta K. I will show you that example. In fact, it is there in like some of the books, like the Petkov and Hu. In that book, it is there. I will mention the page number. Okay, there you can see that is how a spin-mass damper system with parametric uncertainty, it can be represented in a M delta fashion. So for this particular case, like now this delta, it is a structured uncertainty. Why? Because you know the bound and also you know the structure. So although it is represented as a delta, but the difference between this one and the frequency domain is that in the frequency domain we didn't have any idea about what would be the order of the transfer function, what would be the pole zero combination. We only knew the H infinity norm. There are non-bounded uncertainties. But here, that is, it is everything. The structure is known to us, the pattern of the variation, that is also known to us, the minimum and maximum value, the range, that is also known to us. Yet the question is, if all these things are known, what is the reason for converting it into this structure? Because otherwise we cannot apply the H infinity controller design, because M, it has to be free from all the variations. Okay, so if it is so, then this is called a structured uncertainty. Kind of a parametry, but when the parameter is quite more, then how you handle it, that is nothing but structure. If somebody asks me, then what is then lumped? Suppose in a for a practical plan, you have this kind of parametric uncertainties and some unstructured as well. Then together they are called lumped. Okay. Now only that is one is left about the kind of state-based uncertainty. That is now immediately, like this point actually I was talking about a little bit, I started that here already, that is, I have introduced some state-based uncertainty, right? Here when you are dealing with parametric uncertainty, here the parametric uncertainty can also appear in this state-based, right? It was A plus capital delta A. So the type of the variation is different. Then of course you will ask that, sir, how does it look like? Suppose this A delta where you have 0, 1, minus 2 minus delta, minus 3 minus delta, where this is an example of A delta. Okay. So like when you have the state space matrices A, and then there some of the parameters are dependent upon a scalar parameter. So like here it is in the controllable canonical form 0, 1, one element and another element. But this element is -2 minus delta. This is -3 minus delta. So what is the range of variation for this element? It can be -2.5 up to -1.5, right? And similarly this one -3.5 up to -2.5. Right? So this is kind of that variation. It is parametric, but it appears in the state space format, not likely this. If you ask me, sir, can it be directly converted into this? It is not. Please remember, that is one important point. That is, we have the correspondence between state space and transfer function, like g of s equals to c into si minus a whole inverse into b plus d. But if there is this kind of variation, it is really difficult to transform it into this. Now, if you have parametric uncertainty in this state space, there one particular type is there for which we have already a defined or a good stability result, that is called polytopic uncertainty. Next day we will start with that. Polytopic uncertainty. What do you mean by a polytope? In a 2D polytope means a square can be 2D polytope, right? 2 square is equals to 4. If you have a cube, my drawing is very bad. So here 2 to the power cube equals to 8. You might think that is why I am drawing this structure, right? Suppose A has 2 parameters, delta 1, delta 2. Then what will be the mean max variation? Delta 1 mean, delta 2 max, like mean max, max mean, max max. So then that will be these 4 vertices or 4 corners. Are you getting? Like delta 1 mean, delta 2 max, and then delta 1 max, delta 2 mean. Really mean max in that way, that is we can get like 4 parameters, like 4 variations corresponding to each of the variation. If I write, like suppose this is one vertex, vertex 1, vertex 2, vertex 3, vertex 4, 2 parameters, so 4 combination. Each one of them, if you have the state space matrices A1, A2, A3, A4, all of them will belong to A delta, right? So suppose corresponding to V1, you have A1, then V2 you have A2, here you have A3, then you have A4, right? Now this A delta, it will be in the convex hull of A1, A2, A3, A4. I hope you in the optimization class you must have heard about the term convex hull. Not yet? That is a convex combination of all those A's. And for that we have the quadratic stability, and that is equipped with an LMI. Like next day we will learn, don't worry. So that is the term is, you can just check a little bit in Google. The term is convex hull. So these two notations will terms will be important for you. One is polytopic uncertainty, another one is convex hull. Before the next class, you please check that, okay, from internet, and try to gather a preliminary idea about what these terms are. So then finally, what is our takeaway point? We have understood structured uncertainty, and then the most importantly, both unstructured and uncertainty, they can appear both in the frequency domain as well as in the state space. But be careful, their representation style is different, right? Here, like I wrote A plus capital delta A, but whereas there it is A of delta. This means it is a scalar parameter, delta, but this means it is a non-bounded uncertainty. Okay? So next day, that is we will learn polytopic uncertainty, which is a particular type of parametric uncertainty, and then we will learn the other type of state-based uncertainties. Mostly they will be matched and unmatched uncertainties, which appear specifically in sliding mode control. Once again, that is already you have seen two types of state-based uncertainties, but later there are other type of state-based uncertainties as well, matched and unmatched uncertainties. Okay, they are specifically we handle them or we need them when we do sliding mode control. Okay. Okay, thank you. লাস্ট পার্টটায় তোমাদের তো কোনো লোড হয়নি, আমি তো এক্সপ্লেন করছিলাম, তোমরা তো শুধু শুনছিলে তাই